Alrighty, hey everyone, we should be live now. If you can hear me okay, let me know. Let me know over in the chats. Welcome to today's workshop. See, there's quite a few people here. I'm just going to have a quick look at what's going on both of the chats, but please let me know if the audio and the video is looking okay. I will sort of zoom in and everything as well with the bit of the drawing, because I know some of you struggle a little bit to see what's going on when, yeah, with pencil obviously it's like a little bit difficult to see. Fantastic. I'm just having a look. Okay, I think everything's all good. How you doing, Yvette, Richard, and a big happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there as well. I'm actually catching up with my mum and grandma later on in the afternoon. So hope you guys are hope you're having a great day and have something nice planned. And I'm having a look through just to see who's here. We've got Kizzy Cat from Oklahoma. How you going, Kizzy Cat? I remember you from one of the previous sessions. I don't know if it would have been a while back, last few sessions. And my last name pronounced Yo. Yeah. We've got Ellie Durance, got Pamela, Yvonne in the chats as well. Christine, Margaret, good to see you all. Rebecca as well, Rebecca Simpson. Okay. Nothing here. Okay, well, hopefully you have a nice lunch after this mug. Yes, I've got some relatives over later on, so let's have a look. We've also got on Facebook, got Cindy from the Gold Coast, Jeannie. We've got Anne, Candy, Karen. Lots of new faces. It's good to see you all. We've got Sandra from Queensland and James watching from Georgia. Welcome, James. And Denise from Oklahoma. So, yeah, as you guys know, you can use the chats and ask questions, and I've actually got them all up on the screen. I've got a couple of screens here, and times I might miss one here or there, but I'll do my best to keep an eye on them during the workshop. So, yeah, I can answer questions, that sort of thing. So I'll just show you, for some of you who may not be too aware of my work and stuff like that, I'll just show you a few little paintings that I've done recently that might give you a quick little impression of what of the type of work that I do. These are smaller paintings, and you can just see just a few of these. Some of them are more recent. Some of them have been here from previous workshops. I've got a whole stack of these actually. That I've painted previously. I think some of them are from like last workshop. Some of them are just from classes. So you can see I've got a pretty loose style, and I paint quickly, and I like to get a general impression of what I'm painting. And a lot of people think that you got to labor and spend a whole day over a watercolor painting, but a lot of the time, you just need to get in the basic drawing and impression. Let me see what else I got. I've lost some of them. Yeah, got lots of little scenes here. That's another night scene I did some time ago. But today we're going to be doing some night scenes, I guess. And this is something that was actually requested a while back by a few of you guys, because I know I've done some other classes on it, but I want to show you all the basic steps that I follow to paint a night scene. These are some of my more recent ones from some workshops. I've been really keen on painting trees and nature lately, so few more bits and pieces. So yeah, just to give you a bit of an impression. And you know, as you can see, I do paint a lot these days, probably not as much as I should. I need to make it more of a daily thing. But when you do these small paintings, you find that it's just so much easier to get into practice rather than pull out a gigantic sheet of paper and end up stressing over creating some kind of masterpiece. If you are ever stuck or not so sure of what to paint, just reduce the bit of paper, the size of it down, even half of something like this. This is about A4 or 1/8 sheet, and it makes it a lot easier. Okay, so the reference photos actually in the discussion section if you're on YouTube, on Facebook, but if you're on YouTube, it's in the description of the video, so you can actually scroll down and get the reference photo. I've got it up on the screen as well, but it is a smaller version of it. So it's more just for general reference so that you can refer to the light and basically where things are. I had a look at that reference and I was thinking to myself, you know, there's actually so much in there. I might take a smaller snippet of it. If you've already drawn it, don't worry, because we'll follow the same process anyhow. Okay, let me just bring up my version of it. Okay. Thanks, Kizzy Cat. Says appreciate that. Great. Morning, Mila and Sue. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Now, what you're going to need at the right now is just a pencil, okay, to get the drawing in. And yeah, basically how I run these things is that we'll do the drawing together, and if you have questions, let me know. Just let me know in the chats, and I'll get back to you. Okay, you should all be ready now. Okay, so like I was saying before, I kind of want to reduce this down a little bit, both in the detail and also zoom in a little to the photograph. Okay, so where we've got Clock Tower, Big Ben, I'm going to put it kind of in this section of the scene. Okay, I might actually be able to, wonder if I can chop down the reference photo a tiny bit on camera, on the view here, so you can see really what I mean by this. Let me just do a little draggy, sort of drag this thing around so you can see what I mean. Something like this, yeah, a little bit like that. And perhaps looking at those buildings to the right, thinking whether I want to cut them down or not, but we'll see. And the reason why is just that the scene is quite big, and especially with the tower, the clock tower, it's going to look, I think it's just going to look a bit too small if we, yeah, it's going to look a little bit too small if we include everything in here. Okay, so firstly, I want to start off with a horizon line, or not a horizon line, but basically where, if we look at the buildings at the back, where they hit the water. Okay, I'd say it's about maybe a third of the way in. Yeah, so I'm just going to draw in a quick line, and hopefully you can see okay. Let me just lower the contrast, the brightness a touch on the camera. Okay, let me zoom in a little bit so you can take a quick look. The light often just washes out the pencil work, and I have to draw a bit darker, but you don't need to draw this dark if you're watching along. Keep it fairly light. Okay, so here we go, just a bit of, yeah, 1/3. So we divide the paper up into thirds, just, yeah, draw roughly a line at the 1/3 mark. That's where the water starts. Okay, where the water starts and the buildings finish off, and there's actually little bits of pieces up there. Okay, what else do we have up here? Well, we have this bridge, and it's coming all the way over. Okay, and it finishes around the center of the scene, so here. So I'm going to just draw a general line running from there to there, okay, to the center of the scene. That can be our bit of the bridge. Okay, here it's just all the bits and pieces. Let me just raise that a touch, just having a look. Okay, and in the center we have this, probably not in the center, but probably right here, we've got the clock tower. Big Ben. And the way I like to draw things is look at the shapes that whatever you're drawing is comprised of. And the tower, it's really just a series of rectangles and squares and circles. Okay. And we want to leave a bit of room up the top as well. So don't draw it too high. Okay. But we've got a bit of this yellowish color. Okay. Some buildings at the back. But then we've got the main tower. And I think we've got to I really think we've got to just take a bit more time with it. Okay. Coming down sort of like this side of it there. It's just a box. Okay. Think of it as just a box that you're essentially drawing. Okay. And you got the bottom part of it like that. Okay, there. Let's have a look. We've got the actual part where the clock is here. Okay, it's like a square or whatever. That. And sometimes what I like to do is, you can actually just mark out the corners with a little dot and then join the dots up like that. That's kind of what I'm just showing you here. You join the dots up so you feel more confident penciling in those lines. Okay, I'm actually exaggerating it a little bit, making it look a little larger than it appears in the reference photo. Yeah, I just want to do that because it kind of looks a little bit small back here. And that's something you can do. That's, artistic license. You can change whatever you want in there. The rooftop, yeah, it's kind of like this, again, this sort of trapezoid shape. Another triangle here on the right side of the roof. So you've kind of got this three-dimensional look on top here. You've got like another sort of, I don't know, like a rectangular shape here as well. Okay, like that. And then on top, right on top, you've got this bit coming up like that. Okay. That's probably the hardest part of the drawing you need to do, to be honest. The rest of it is just kind of silhouette. Okay. All things in here as well, you can go in and just change, add some small details. The side of the clock here. Okay, just a little indication of the side of the clock. The rest of the tower, I'm not fussed. We just, we can spend all day drawing things, but as long as we've got the basic shapes in here, you're going to be fine. Okay. I used to spend way too much time detailing in the drawing, and you can really get annoyed doing that. Okay. Drawing for watercolors is a little bit different than drawing for, just as the artwork in itself, because we just want to put in a plan of where everything is in here. Okay. There we go. We've got the tower at the back, and I'm just going to put in some of these little bits and pieces of these buildings. So you can see here on the left as well, we've actually got, there's this building here. I don't even know what this is. It's like a side of like a side of a building or something. Yeah, just to pencil in a silhouette. You've got to remember that a lot of this stuff here is going to be just more of a silhouette. So it's futile kind of going through and drawing in all the little details. There we go. That's it. So look at the shape of these buildings here, and just kind of, even if it's really quite interesting. They're just like coming up like that. They're very intricate, lots of stuff going on there, but I just want to find a way to simplify it. Okay. That. Good. And the thing with painting night landscapes is you're trying to find the areas of light, okay, in the scene. So and you're trying to preserve it. So when we look at the reference photo, you can see, for instance, the light in the horizon line, and you can see the light in the buildings, okay, and a little bit in the water. So those are the things you really want to think about while you're drawing and think, how am I going to preserve those bits of light? You're always sort of thinking in the back of your mind. Okay, there's even some, you can see some little lamps here, and they reflect water. Not reflect water, reflect light in the water. Okay, bit of a shadow or something here as well. Okay, let's put in some more silhouettes of these buildings in the background. Okay, there. I don't know if I can fit 3 buildings in here. It's quite excessive for this bit of paper. We'll try. Yeah, simplify again. Let's, top of the building like this. Yeah, coming down. I'll put in some of the smaller details later. Then we've got, what else here? We've got this other building here, like that. There. Yeah. Does anyone out there live in London, by the way? Because, little at the end of the day, when you're drawing these architectural sketches and little bits of planning bits as we're doing here, you don't have to get it exact unless you live there, or unless you're an architect or something like that. No one's really going to be able to tell. Okay, as long as you've got Big Ben in there, I think that's going to be uh, the important thing. Make it more identifiable. You just put these little bits on top of the roof here. Look, it's just a little impression. Okay, and I don't want to spend too much time drawing these bits and pieces in, but still have enough plan in there. Another thing we want to do as well is think to ourselves, again, the light on the buildings, in the buildings themselves. Where's the light coming from? Well, we've got windows. Okay, so we can remember, we don't have to draw in the windows really, but I just want to remember to, mental note, remind myself, leave some light in there. And if you can't remember how to do that, just draw in a few little windows here, okay, to just remind yourself later, okay, to put them in. So we've really almost got in all of the scene already in terms of the drawing. Now we've got this bridge here, and it's just a bit tricky to draw this one in. We've got comes across and down like that. Okay, what else do we have here? This is kind of like the bottom part of the bridge there. Oops, where it hits the water, comes back up again. Okay, like that. There. Yeah, just the arches I think are going to be the most important part. What have we got in here? Kind of got these parts here as well underneath. Okay. Yeah, just focus on getting some of these little arches here under the bridge, especially the ones that are closer to you, closer to the front of the scene. They tend to just need a bit more detailing, I find, to imply what is there. When you start getting around to the back sections of the bridge, it's no big deal. You can't really see what's going on in there anyhow. And in the scheme of things with this painting, it's not of huge importance, but you just want to repeat this structure and notice how it gets smaller as you get out the back as well. These little arches get smaller. And we go more. What we got here? Got another one there. Okay, got another one. Just gets smaller and smaller. In fact, this actually goes up a bit more like that. Bottom part of the arch, it's hitting the water. Another one maybe here. Doesn't matter. I think that's good. Okay. Can't really tell that much. Just probably focus on the first two like this. Okay, and then with the remaining ones, don't beat yourself up about it. Okay. The sort of impression of these arches, that's all you need to do, just like that. Okay, so you should have something like this now, right? You should have something like this. And the last thing I will probably do is just underneath here, notice the water is a bit darker. I'm just going to quickly mark that out like this. Okay, remind myself perhaps this bit has to be darker. Okay, but that is it. You should have something. You should have something to something like this. And Richard's asking if I do some plein air urban sketching. Yeah, I was actually out in Williamstown, here in Melbourne recently, and brought along this little book. I bought this in Singapore. It's like a little, what do you call it? I can't remember what they call it. It's basically a little watercolor book. And I did these sketches, and I'm making another YouTube channel just to upload some of these bits and pieces that I do. So these were done just on the spot. So one of the best ways, and that's a really good point, Richard, that you brought up, because when you go outside and you really force yourself to draw and paint, you can learn so quickly, and it's actually kind of fun as well. Once you get used to people coming by and asking questions and maybe chatting to you, looking at you funny, it's actually it's fantastic. So okay, how are you all doing? Can you let me know if we're ready to continue? Because I'm probably going to get started in a moment. But yeah, grab your brushes and grab your palette out. And show you roughly what I'm going to be using brush-wise. Okay. In this scene as well, the most important part that you need to pay attention to is the first wash. Okay, this first wash is super, super important. The reason why that is because we are putting in the light, okay, and we're getting a nice kind of gradation with the sky. You can see the sky sort of transitions from cool to warm. You don't have to use these exact colors, but we want to get that transition. I'll show you a little bit of how I'm going to do that. Okay. But let's have a look how we all doing. I think everyone is good to continue. But Doreen from Memphis. Okay. Yeah, while I'm just waiting for a moment to let you guys know as well that I have a 70 course program. I've been running this for a couple of months now, and I've got the link in the description. And I'm actually running a Mother's Day special today that you can get it for on discount. So I've got it on half price. You get 70 full courses as part of this program, which will cover so many different topics. I think there's about 300 plus videos and lots of different projects in there. So you can check it out through the link in the video description or in the chats. I've pinned a comment there if you want to take a look at it. Okay, but I will talk about it a bit at the end as well. Okay, but let's get cracking. Okay, so I've got a couple of brushes here. I've got some, where are they? Mop brushes. They're facing upside down. So these are the most crucial brushes you need to have in watercolors, because this is where the bulk of the painting is done. You've got a smaller tip and a larger base, wider base which holds water. Then you might have something like this little round brush, and also a flat brush. And the flat brush will be, I think, important at the end of this scene, where I'll show you how to get some sharper reflections. But you don't need it really. You can just use one of these as well to get those reflections in. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I will probably use a middle, something like that. That one looks okay. Okay, medium-sized mop brush, and people always ask what size brush I use. It depends on the paper. If we've got a big piece of paper and we're doing a large bit of sky, we're going to need a bigger brush. This is a smaller bit of paper. It's 1/8 sheet, so I'm not going to need a huge brush. This should be fine. Okay, and for this wash, let me just perhaps zoom out a little bit. You see a little bit of my palette. For this wash, what we're going to do is use a combination of 10% paint and 90% water. So the big thing you got to remember, you're using mostly water. It's going to look weak. It's going to look funny. The wash is going to look, you're going to think to yourself, is this dark enough? But have to just kind of persist and just do it. Okay, so let's start off, and I'm actually going to start off probably. I'm going to go into the buildings first, and let's put in some color. Now, for the go with a bit of yellow ochre here. It's actually not really 100% yellow ochre. It's like a golden yellow. We've got some here. This is a bit of quinacridone yellow. A little bit of quinacridone yellow here. Okay, and I like to save anyway the real vibrant bits of paint for the highlights and the areas of interest. Okay, so remember, like at this moment, we're not really trying to get in any details. All I'm trying to do is put in color, okay, and make sure we're preserving light in this scene. Okay, so I'm keeping it warm, and I'm using a bit of quinacridone yellow here and also some yellow ochre. I do have a bit of this other color which is called buff titanium. It is a kind of off-white color. There's also some little browns in here, so I thought I'll pick up a bit of burnt sienna and just drop in a touch here as well to just keep things interesting. Okay, bit of burnt sienna. Okay, and the buildings are kind of, yeah, they do have more of a warmer color, I found. So yeah, a little bit of brown there, but I'm not trying not to overdo it. Remember, we want to make this pretty light, and we're getting in nice warm colors. Okay, some more quinacridone yellow there. I just want to put some more yellow and this silhouette of the buildings. Okay, and why am I doing all these buildings first? Well, I like to do this first sometimes because when we put in all this stuff, we can actually tilt the paper upwards, and then we can start doing the sky. We can put in a layer of the sunset over here, and then it stops us from losing that light. Okay, because I think the light, especially in these night scenes, these nocturnal scenes, they has to be preserved, and it's so important. When I was learning how to do these initially, it was so frustrating because, yeah, I didn't have the the discipline to just leave out some of the yellows and the colors in here. I'll just try to paint everything dark, and I'd lose all this amazing light. Okay, so look at that. I'm just using my brush, sort of scumbling it around. You know, the bridge as well. One thing I've noticed about this bridge is that it is got kind of these lighter, we call it, yeah, these lighter sort of colors in the bridge a little bit like this. So I'm just going to put some of that in there. This is buff titanium. Okay, and let's blend this all through. There we go. Blend it all through like that. Don't worry if you leave out a bit of white as well. I like to do that at times. Just little sparkles of white. Okay, so yeah, remember what we're doing here. We're just getting in light. Okay, anything that you see in here that looks lighter, we're putting it in. Okay, I'll bring this down a bit actually here. Good. I do keep this as well on hand. It's a little spray bottle. I will spray. Oh, what's going on here? We'll spray the base of it a touch. And the reason why is because I want that to stay wet. Grab a bit of paper towel. So how are we all doing? Hope you are following along okay. Yeah, we are not detailing, just putting in some of the light. That's all we're doing. Okay, even if you just use one color, okay, you'll be completely fine. Okay, so on the horizon line, I I don't know, the sky looks a little bit, I want to put a bit of pinkish color, pink and maybe orange. So I'm going to mix a bit of pink and a bit of orange together. Okay, make it kind of, yeah, make it look a little bit pinkish. Okay, and just, I mean, if you don't need a pink, basically just need a bit of red, and then dilute that down. I don't want it to be too pink though, so I'm also adding in a bit of this other yellowish color, other colors that I can dull it down a little bit, even a touch of gray in there. Okay, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to drag this area of the sky upwards. It's going to connect onto the buildings a little bit. Don't worry about that. Okay, so just put that in. Think of a sky color that you want. For me, I want a little bit this sort of pinkish color here at the bottom. Okay, so it sets it aside from the yellows. Okay, just a bit of that. And all this, remember, where I'm just using a lot of water in here. So much water, it's like 10% paint only. Only 10% paint. All right. So where does this all kind of finish off? Well, maybe about here, doesn't it? And then it starts getting darker from that point onwards. Okay. All right. And this might seem a bit counterintuitive. We're painting opposite way. A lot of people start painting from the top to bottom, but you'll see in a moment why I'm doing this. Okay, so should have that pink in there, and keep it all again like nice and wet at the top. Okay, and slanting the paper. See how I'm just moving the paper upwards like that? This is going to help to create a little bit more of a gradient. Okay, let's think. What should we do for the sky color? I'm going to pick up some ultramarine blue, and I will dull it down with some of this neutral tint, which is basically grey. Okay, a little bit of grey in there. Ultramarine blue, and I do have some purple as well. Let me just drop in a touch of this purple. God, I don't even know which purple this is. A little bit of purple. No idea what purple that is, but it doesn't matter. Okay, let's just give this a crack like that. Okay. Remember to be careful with cutting around the tower as well. That's, some of it can mix, it's no big deal, but you want to create a little bit of a distinction as well between the sky. Okay, there we are. So we're getting there. A little bit more. Yeah, this is definitely more of a purplish mix, I can tell. Yeah, like that. All right, dragging this all the way through. And as we get to the top, I like to put in a tiny bit more darkness at the top. Okay, a bit more darkness at the top. Doing this quickly. Okay, there we are. All right, so let me just start shifting, moving the paper down like this, just holding the paper a little bit further down on a slant. And this is going to help to move some of this color downwards and create a bit of a gradient, hopefully. All right. It's not going to be perfect, but you can also just look at that, just sort of feather in a touch of this paint as well. But being careful to preserve the sky, this warmth here on the horizon line. You see that? So see how we've got a bit of this, like this gradient. All right. When you start moving around the paper, you mix it all like that. And there's a point where you think, okay, it looks good, let's stop. I think I'm going to stop now before it all runs together. The paper is still wet. So I will actually darken off the top a little bit. And let's see if I can just shift a little bit of this downwards. Okay. It's probably a touch too purple for my liking, but it will do. Okay, put in a bit of neutral tint there. That might just help a touch. I do find that, yeah, making the top of the sky a little bit darker helps. And this all nicely just sort of dissipates and blends if you keep that top of the paper wet. This is the magical stuff I love about watercolors, just this wet and wet. I used to avoid it. I used to avoid this like the plague. It would stress me out like anything, but you can just really save yourself so much time and get in some beautiful effects. There's no other way to do it. Okay. Once it starts to look good, just leave it. I think this is the point where I should probably leave it. The more I start fiddling around with it, I'll potentially change this how it looks. So let me just check how you're doing. How are we all doing? The chat seemed a little bit quiet. I guess you're all busy. Guess you're all pretty busy painting. And remember, you can rewind this still if it's a bit too quick for you. Kizzy Cat's asking, do you stretch your paper or just tape it down? Yeah, so I just tape it down. I never bother stretching it, Kizzy Cat. It's just, for me, a waste of time. You know, yeah, I don't bother at all. You do find if you don't stretch it, some people do wet the back of the paper and the front of the paper before starting. That's another thing you can do if you're doing this sort of gradient and wet wash. Let me just spray down the bottom first, a little bit of the bottom part here. Now, what we want to do is we want to kind of mirror the sky a little bit, but also we want to mirror some of these reflections on the buildings. Okay, some of these little reflections, and I will, you know, they're not actually this. I was going to make some more vibrant reflections in the water or something that looks a bit more exaggerated. Okay, let's pick up a bit of this yellow, and what we can do is just do something like this. Do some downward brush strokes. Okay, where you see these bits of the buildings, we can just kind of do something like that. A few of these downward brush strokes. Okay, of warmth, right? And just remember to try to mix in a little bit of gray or something in here as well. I don't want the reflections to be too vibrant. This is going to be a big one there. I want to emphasize that reflection in the water, the warmth up the top. And normally when I'm doing reflections like daytime sort of reflections, I just use one color, but for these nighttime reflections, it does help to exaggerate them a bit. And yeah, it's one of those things that in the photograph, it actually looks great already, but there's so much detail in there, so you can get away with it in the photograph, but in a painting, I don't know, I like to add something else to it. Okay, let's have a look. How are we going? Good. So you should, at this stage, have some of these downward reflections, and this one is the most important one. Okay, the reflection of Big Ben, and let it sit around for a little bit. Let me just check the chats again. Oh yeah, there's a few questions. Let me answer some of these. Good to see some of you asking questions. It's important to do that while I'm here so I can help you along. Melissa's asking, do you find the paper ripples with so much water? Well, if you tape it down, it's okay. It does buckle a little bit, but yeah, generally speaking, you should be okay. It depends on the paper that you're using as well. If you're using 100% cotton paper, yeah, that's going to handle the water a lot better. And that's why I do recommend, in the description to use cotton paper if you got it. You don't need it though. It's just easier, especially as a beginner. And for me, it's about, in Australia, pay something like $9 or $10 for a huge sheet of paper. I think it's 56 by 76 centimeters, full sheet watercolor paper, and you can just tear that down into 16 sheets of paper, and you have some great. That's what I do here. I tear a whole sheet of watercolor paper down into 16 sheets, and you give yourself the best possible opportunity to paint a scene, and all the techniques work out well when you're using cotton paper. It was something, probably the biggest game changer for me when I was starting out learning painting, because I was just picking materials that weren't good enough. But yeah, I always recommend, just if use whatever materials that you have available, and as you get more into it, you can upgrade and get some other materials then. But if you can, if it's available to you, cotton watercolor paper, that's the best stuff to get. I mean, all of this. It's also cold press paper or textured paper. Textured paper allows all this blending to happen. So make sure you get that. Don't get the hot press paper because it's too smooth to do this kind of stuff. Lee's asking, is this going to be available after? Yep, it'll be available after, but please hang around to the end if you guys are available, and because I'd like to talk about this a little special I have going on for one of my programs. But yeah, it will be available after. Doreen says, enjoying the lesson. And yes, I'm using cotton paper, John. Ellie says, for now, I watch will create later on my own pace. Awesome, Ellie. Okay, so this is sort of settled in a little bit. I kind of got a bit distracted talking, but in sort of, what we do, we're just going to mimic the sky a bit. I'm going to pick up some darker paint, purple and blue, and a bit of this neutral tint. Okay, let's drop some of this in. Okay, and the water is actually a little bit darker, a teeny bit darker than the sky. So the trick is you just want to tap onto the edges of where you see the warmth. Okay, just tap onto the edges. Do I have a smaller flat brush? Sometimes I think this just can work better. Like that. Like that. There. Right. Like this. If you do get a bit of yellow, not yellow, sorry, if you do get a bit of this white running through the paper, don't worry. Just go ahead and do this and make it quick, and at the same time leave the warmth in the water. It's so important. You sort of touching the edge of the water of the warmer colors in the water. Should be more specific, the warmer colors in the water, but we are not getting rid of it. We're just trying to get it to blend. Okay. I purposely also just, sometimes I do this. I purposely just do it quicker, so I'm not too precious about things. There, look, there. All right. And these are exaggerated reflections. Yeah, they're not true to the reference, but I think that this will make it look more interesting. Okay, but you don't have to make them this exaggerated. All right, good. Let me look further in there. Yeah, we're looking pretty good so far. Let's put in a bit of, also I'm going to put in a little bit of the purple in underneath the bridge areas as well while I'm here to, I don't know, join it on a bit better like that. Okay. There's actually going to be some sharper reflections. We'll put in some sharper reflections later. All right. But for now, this should be what you have. This should be something like what you have. And lots of lighter colors, apart from the apart from all the purples and blues and stuff like that, the purples and blues, we're still using a very, very light, a very, very weak mixture of that color. It's only 10 to 15% of that purpley blue color, you know. But because when you're using darker colors, you can dilute them out more without changing the darkness of it. Whereas with yellows and stuff, you can dilute them out, or you can use it straight from the tube, and it's not going to be, well, there'll be less difference in the value of how light and dark it's going to appear. Okay, so you should have something like this. And let me know again. I'm just watching on keeping an eye on the chats. And we've got Joy as well. Joy Gabales, good to see Joy. Haven't seen you for a while. Yeah, it's been a while. Just watching now, not painting along because I got in late. Yeah, that's okay, Joy. You can just watch. You can rewind it if you want. Yeah. And this next part we'll be doing pretty quickly as well. 11:50, so we're doing quite okay. Richard says Officeworks is 12 by A4 100% GSM pads. Yeah, that's pretty good as well. There's a whole bunch of art shops as well in Melbourne, Richard, and you can buy an entire sheet of imperial size watercolor paper, 56 centimeters by 76 centimeters, and yeah, that will set you back like $9 to $10. Set you back $9 to $10. There's yeah, any sort of art shop like Exley's, whereas there's Senior Art, there's yeah, it's a bit of a pain to carry back with you, but you just roll it up and carry it with you, and then you can just tear it down when you get home. Yeah, Kizzy Cat Kizzy Cat says watching and taking notes, and we'll paint later. Awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna give this. I don't want to dry this off here. I'm gonna dry this off. So give me one moment. I'm gonna pause the audio and get my hairdryer out. Speed this up a little bit, yeah. Okay, I've mostly dried this off. I would say it's about 80 to 85% dried, and that will give me a surface that is not going to run everywhere and create a mess. Okay, and what are we going to do? Let's pick up small brush, small round brush, and also a flat brush. Okay, so this is a small mop brush, and flat brush. And we're going to get in the silhouette of all these buildings, the bridge, all that kind of stuff, just in one go. Okay, and hopefully not stuff it up. We got to remember to retain the light, keep the light in there. So I want to start off at the most, I think this is going to be the most fun bit, the tower. And I've got a bit of brown, touch of brown. I'm mixing up just a really generic brownish color with a bit of neutral tint, which is basically just gray. And we want to use a darker color, but we don't want it to be, so in terms of the proportion, the mixture, I would say maybe 40 to 50% paint and the rest of it water, because it's still quite dark. So at the end of the day, even if you dilute it down a fair bit, we're going to be able to still imply a darker silhouette. So what the color that we're using now, it just has to be darker. So see how the buildings, they actually stick out because they're darker. All the buildings, everything, even the tower here. So let's try. Let me just get this in first. Sometimes a little brush may help, but I'm always wary of overthinking everything and spending too much time on nitpicky stuff. So the top part like this, just having a look, and you only kind of get one go at that. Okay, I'm just putting the top part of the clock tower in. I just want to try to find myself a tinier brush to use. Where is it? Where is it? Maybe this one. Maybe this one will do. Right. Bring this wash further down. Like this. Here. There's the flat brush. Bring back my flat brush. Okay. And just start working on the sides of the tower. That. And remember, we also want to leave out bits of the yellow in there as well. So if you've got an opportunity to just simplify things and just cut around, just make sure you do that. Here, look at that, just a little bit there. We've actually got so much light on the side of this tower, and there's so many details. You can really spend all day doing this. Okay, but remember to just leave those clock faces, the clock faces like lighter. If you can remember to do that, you'll be good. If you accidentally leave them out, that's no problem either. You can put them back in later with some gouache. Okay, so you can see here it's like comes down, it's darker, but at the base it goes kind of lighter again. Okay, so just bring that in like this. There, it's darker here in the front as well. Right, like that. There. The buildings here as well to the left, you see they kind of got these spires and things sticking up. I'm going to imply some of those like that, just with the edge of my flat brush. Yeah. Further down, it's still kind of, can put in a little bit more darkness, but just want to preserve some of that yellow as well if possible. So just dropping it in. Okay, here on the left hand side, I'm going to start picking up a little bit more darker color, and let's see how this looks. Bit of darker brown and brown and neutral tint in here. There's so much, really so much going on. I have to check myself here and make sure I don't overdo it. And when you use a larger brush for stuff like this as well, that really helps simplify things as well, so you don't spend too much time in there. Okay, good. You know, there's even little cars and stuff. You can see them just on the bridge. This building here is darker. So the right hand side is a touch lighter. And then you've got this sort of top part of the tower. That. I probably should have done that one darker. Doesn't matter. That. And this is what I mean when I was saying, hey, you know, we're just playing around with the silhouettes. There's not really a lot of detailing required here. We're just varying this darker color. And some kind of tower or something there in the back. That. There. Good. I mean, you get what you get the story. It looks kind of tells a story of what's there. Okay, that looks all right. Let's start working a bit on the right hand side now. We can always go back and continue fiddling around bits and pieces, but yeah, just don't want to do it for too long. Here, this right hand side, you know, you can see there's actually some kind of building there as well. Darken. There. And this is where I was mentioning before to it's so important to remember to keep some of the lights on the buildings. Pardon me. Is this a flag? Oops. It's a bit too much, but it doesn't matter. You got to work with your mistakes. If you ever make mistakes, which I mean, I make dozens of mistakes in each painting. You might not see it, but I do. You got to learn to work with them. Otherwise, you'll just give up. Turn it into the into part of the building or something like that. Okay. I feel like I'm spending way too much time on detailing things. Okay, bring that down. And yeah, like I said before, you see how on the buildings there's these little windows and stuff, and this is why we can just sort of use this to cut around. Just leave some light in it, like this. Some darker color, a bit more brown in here, and leave some windows and stuff showing through like that. All right. All this kind of, funny enough, like blends onto the bridge in the background. There, look at that. I mean, this is all darkness as well here. This is joining on to the right hand side. Just trying to like darken some of this stuff a bit as well. Sometimes you go through and you realize perhaps it's not as dark as you'd like it to be, so you can just go through and reapply some color as I'm doing here. There we are. That looks a bit better, doesn't it? Oops. Try to make sure I don't eliminate the light on the side of that tower. Okay, let's continue on here. I'm going to do this one. I'm going to do this pretty quickly, guys. Okay, just like this. Okay. A silhouette of the buildings. The great thing about painting into the light is that you don't need to detail as much. Okay, but you do have to get in a smooth wash for all these bits and pieces out the back and make it look like something, and that's the tricky part. Leaving out the light, implying something going on in there. Because in the reference photo, you've got so much detail. There's so much going on in there, and when you paint, you're taking just a small part of that detail. Okay, and these, I've used the brush that's probably a little bit too large. So these buildings aren't the most detailed, but you know, no biggie. Let's have a look underneath the bridge. There is, well, we've actually got like these bits of darker sections, but we need to darken the bridge a little bit as well. I'm going to pick up a touch of this kind of, what is this kind of yellow, grayish color, buff titanium. Okay, I'm going to just drop that in here. It's just like a grayish color in there. And I will darken off some parts of this bridge. It just needs to be, it needs to have some more of this gray color in it. I think it's too bright at the moment. There we go. That. Like that. Okay. Good. The base. Here. Something like that. Good. More of this darker color now inside. And just getting some darkness under this bridge, yeah? It's going to create these arches. I'll probably tie them up a bit later as well. Okay, getting there. We are slowly but surely progressing. Okay. Now remember, a lot of this stuff just combines on with this darkness here in the water. So I'm gonna just bring this down. This same dark color that I've got in here. Put in a bit of blue or something. Touch of blue. It kind of looks a bit too dark at the moment. A little bit of blue. And I will. Why not? Let's just get in some reflections in the water. Okay, like this. Running across like that. We're joining up. We're kind of using this to just join up the bit of water underneath. Okay. Yeah. Okay, like that. Okay, being careful not to overdo it as well. I want to also play around with some reflections, some darker reflections. See if I can maybe get in some of this stuff just down with brush stroke. Okay. Oops. So pick up a bit of paint, dry off the brush, and move the brush down the page like that. Okay, to get some of these darker reflections or bits and pieces like that. Got a better brush. This one needs to hold a bit of dark paint in it. Like that. No, I like to leave that bit here. Okay. The trick is to just have enough water on the brush, but still have it dry enough so that it creates little bits of texture here underneath. Okay, like this. This will work probably better on the right hand side, like this. Oops. This is the type of effect I was trying to aim for, actually. The stuff here on the right hand side is probably a bit too much. But we will play around with that, and I'll lift off a little bit of paint in there as well to dull it down, something like this, something like that. Should be quick. Okay, good. So really we should have a little scene. I mean, it's almost done. We're just got to put in some highlights, final highlights and things like that. But I will just see if I can, where's my that same flat brush I got. Okay. And I will just put in a bit more of some brush strokes, maybe running across the scene like this in the water. Just some smaller brush strokes, and I think maybe connecting this stuff up as well might be good. Okay. A few little bits of inconsistencies on the water. Soften this one off a touch as well. Okay, but you can see how we've kept a lot of lots of the light still in the scene. Okay, so I want to tidy everything up, put in some final highlights, and I will use again that same flat brush, or we've got a smaller round brush as well that will also do the trick. Okay, all this stuff should almost be dried. If not, let's give it a quick dry. Okay. Really the darkest of the darks, just picking up some neutral tint here. Let's see, what can I do to emphasize a few things here and there? Maybe a bit of the bridge, or even like this what do you call it, lamp, and it's just the stem of it at the moment. Some of the stems of the lamps. Oops, here's one here, and this is just to put it in. Okay, but I will put in the light for the lamps in a moment. Really, it's just like using the really dark colors to just bring out some final finishing touches, but you don't want to overdo it as well. So I'm just kind of dry brushing a lot of this stuff on, and more implying what's there. I have noticed as well the top of this building, sorry, the top of the clock tower is actually darker, a little bit darker. I will emphasize that. Why not just put in a secondary layer over the top? Okay. That allows me to potentially sharpen it up a little bit as well. At least all this stuff you can, I mean, you can spend all day doing it, but it's up to you uh, how much you want to detail. Okay, the hands of the clock. Maybe I'll just put it in here. One there and one there, maybe. Okay. Pretty basic. Okay, there. Bit on the right hand side of the clock as well. Bit more color there. Darkness up here, maybe. Right. Uh, so just put in a bit of detailing on the buildings. You know, little bits of shadow perhaps under here and here, just to imply the bottom parts of the rooftops and things like that. There's actually lots of just like little details here as well. I again, it's not necessary, but I mean, a little bit of dry brush maybe will help imply some detail. Often less is more. Okay, more darks here. This is really dark. I don't want to miss that out. Here. Okay, a bit more underneath the bridge as well, perhaps. Just a little line here to indicate, bring it out more. What else do we have? All of this. All of this is already where I need it to be. It's just re-emphasizing some parts. You know, underneath the bridge, maybe some darkness here again. Further darken off some parts. That having a range of values is important, I think, in watercolors or in any kind of painting. Keeps things interesting. Okay. I think that's looking all right. I will put in, I think, some finishing touches for some gouache, with a little bit of gouache. And yeah, just basically this stuff. It's white, opaque watercolor. Squeeze a bit of this stuff out. And it's opaque, and I just use this at the end to add in some final touches, bits and pieces. Okay. Pick up a bit of water, just activate it. Ooh. Mixed in with some other paint, doesn't matter. Okay, let's have a look. What can we do? We could probably put in some of the lamp here. I'll actually put in a little bit of yellow into the gouache. Yellow. Okay, like that. Yellow and white gouache. This can be, I don't know, an indication of the lamp. That. See that? Pretty subtle, but okay. Sometimes you get little bits of light areas on the sections of the buildings as well. So you just dab in a bit of that here, and it works. Did notice that the clock face part of it has sort of disappeared a bit. I can even just bring a little bit of it out, like that. Okay. More highlights and things. If you missed out some windows, you can also put them in with the gouache like this. Just imply some of them like that. You know, the trick is just to not overdo it. Okay. Maybe a little something running across the water here. Some lighter strokes of something. Okay. So yeah, that's really it. A really basic, really sort of basic scene of nocturne sort of scene, and you get the idea. I mean, with the first wash, um, that is so important, because if you don't preserve that first wash, everything else just does not make sense. Let me take this off and let's see how we go. How are you guys doing? Write me a message in the chats. Let me know how you found this session as well. I'm probably going to redo a bit of this later, just work on it a touch more, and probably put in some darker bits as well, and see how we go. Just clean up this table. It's always, for some reason, every time I paint, I make a huge mess. I don't even realize it at the time. But this is it here. What do you guys think? And how did you go today? I hope you enjoyed the session. This is more, again, for the process of how I do it, and it will help you if you're looking to paint something similar, depending on what sort of scene. Candy's asking, show the gouache tube. This is the gouache tube. There you go. It's just white gouache. It's about $8, I think, here in Australia for that tube of it. You can use acrylic as well if you want. If you've got white acrylic. Thank you, everyone. Linda says, beautiful. Hope you get a rerun. Yep, you can watch the rerun later. So while I'm waiting for some of your questions, and do let me know how you thought of today's session, because I always like to improve them and find ways to run them more efficiently, more effectively for you all, so that they are useful and helpful, the more helpful each time. Okay, but while I'm waiting, I do want to run through a quick little presentation, so please stick around. I'm just going to talk about the course that I run. It's a program, actually, and this is it here. This is the Watercolor Essentials program, and it's a 70 course program. I've been running it for a couple of years now. I've got a whole bunch of students in there who are working through all the projects. There's lots and lots of projects in there. As you can see, these are some examples of them, and I'm running a special today. But basically, a lot of time when you are watching tutorials, I know about you, but I'm on YouTube. I'm trying to find something that's simple, easy, gets to the point, but often they're sped up, and I end up being more confused afterwards. And I like to always try to explain exactly what I'm doing along the way. As you can see, kind of like in the same sort of style as we ran through today. What I'm doing, how I'm doing it. I'm very specific as to the colors and the proportion of colors, the mixing of paints as well. I think that's really important that you do miss out when you're watching on YouTube some of these other tutorials. Um, so I like to sort of explain things in real time. And often I find that with beginners, layering, creating depth and perspective are things that are really tough. Like knowing what to do first, like in today's session, knowing to how to put the light in first and how to put the darks in later. And things like perspective when we're drawing the bridge. I didn't really go through too much of that, but making objects in the back seem smaller compared to the stuff in the front. So these things are really going to drastically improve your paintings. And this is me. This was when I was painting in 2014, and really didn't know what I was doing, and I was spinning my wheels and trying to practice constantly. I was practicing, but I just wasn't getting any better. And the reason is I was just practicing in the wrong direction, and I wasn't sure of what kind of process to use. And so when you're doing that, it can be very discouraging. And this is something that I painted this was about a year ago, I think. So, in the same time that I painted this first one. So, yeah, it took me a while to figure out a process that worked for me. And a lot of my students use this same process as well. So, often when we paint, think about the first, I guess, one of the first reasons why you started painting. And for me, it was being able to connect to my creative side, being able to express myself. And we don't really get the opportunity to do that a lot in our day-to-day lives. I find that anyway, being able to inject a sense of what you see, your vision into your art is one of the most valuable things, rather than just copying a reference picture, looking at a reference picture and changing it and turning it to something that you are proud to show to your friends and families. And you feel confident as well being able to produce that bit of work. And I remember the time where I would I would start a painting, but I wouldn't have a clue on how it would turn out. Some of them would turn out good and I'd like them, but most of them I think would just turn out very random. And that's because I just wasn't following a proper process step by step. I was just winging it the entire time. So these in my 70 course program, this is what a few other things I'll talk about. So, like I said before, it's going to increase your confidence in painting, because confidence comes from knowing what to do, knowing what process to follow. For example, today I was saying, paint the light first. How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to use lighter watercolors, lots of water. Do that bit first. And so if as soon as you look at a reference picture and you know where to begin and where it's going to end up, and the steps along the way, it becomes a lot more easier to paint. And it becomes a fun thing as well, rather than this stress of thinking, how am I going to start off, and then ending up with a painting that you're not so happy with. Cover perspective drawing as well, timing. And timing is important, like I mentioned today, and we talked a bit about timing. Wet and wet work. When we're painting the sky, we can't just, for example, let some areas dry and then come back to it later and try to blend the sky. It's not going to work. So, with the sunset and the top of the sky, we've really got to make sure that that bit of paper is completely wet. And that's what timing is. Something that a lot of beginners struggle with. Brush techniques, water control. I talk about that a lot while I'm painting and while I'm carrying out certain techniques. So the proportion of water you're using to paint, knowing what brush to use, how quick you're moving your brush as well, like to create a bit of texture on the paper with those reflections today. Tone and values. So like we were going through today, the different levels of darkness in the painting and light in the painting is really important to portray and create a convincing looking scene. Even if it's a loose impressionistic scene like we've done today, it still has to follow those principles. And learning how to do that, because we don't really, when we look at a scene, we look out into the world, I don't really think to myself, oh, that's darker, that's lighter. Or even drawing, looking at buildings as shapes and breaking them down. It's a skill that you have to learn, and you have to, you have to develop over time. So I'll show you how to do that as well. choosing colors as well. We didn't really use many colors today, if you notice. Very few colors. And you often, when you buy palettes and things, there'll be 20, 30 different colors in there. You don't need all of them. You only need a few. You need primaries and a few little supplementary ones. And a lot of companies try to get you to buy a whole different array of them, but it's not really necessary. And finally, vision. That's something I talk about that I don't really see all too often, but it's basically having an impression in your mind of what you want to portray. So, for example, I wanted to portray this light and this sense of life, um, this kind of context of more of like a sunset, dusk sort of setting. How am I going to do that? How, especially if the reference picture looks different. You have a reference picture of London during the daytime that you took, or maybe there's people in there and you want to shift them around, or there's a boat or something. Where do you put it? They're really important because that all begins before you even put a brush to the paper. And if you don't do that, then you're basically just flying blind. So it's basically just coming up with a plan. So this is what's included. Like I mentioned, it's a 70 course program. You get a wide range of subjects in there. This is one of the subjects included. It's line and wash. Got a whole bunch of line and wash classes in there as well. You get unlimited instant access. Okay, so I think Kizzy Cat was asking if there's limited time frame. So it's unlimited. You get hundreds of hours of work of paint along demonstrations, plus all the ads-free live recorded demonstrations that we've run. But most of the content is new. It's all exclusive courses that I've recorded, and it's all in great quality as well. It's all 1080p HD quality, and yeah, I have a lot more time, especially to go through and actually explain what I'm doing. And yeah, you can learn at your own pace. You can pause, rewind it at any time to go through and try to, if you've got something on, you can pause it, come back to it later, step by step. Pretty much the same how I've run through it today. Here are some of the scenes that are included in the program. There's so many in here. I've only taken maybe like a few percent, 1 to 2% of what's included in there. Okay, but just little examples of things that I've painted and that you can also that are included in this program. And line and wash is a big one that people love, drawing with a black pen and then adding watercolors over the top. It's quite a unique style that allows you to capture the detail, practice your drawing, and also get in those beautiful watercolor washes, those transparent washes, and together it's fantastic. This is a course included as well in the program where you go teach how to do building portraits and draw buildings. Okay, more loose landscapes. As you can see, lots of stuff in here, different projects that you can work on. It's going to keep you busy. And I take on a lot of feedback from students as well in terms of what they want to see in these classes. And so it's really just the best of my work in here in terms of me teaching and selecting projects that are of a whole different range to help you improve as well. Helps to challenge you. There's some easy stuff and there's also some really challenging stuff in there that you can try. So here's some more line and wash works. Okay, that's like another one of Big Ben actually. So I thought I'd put this in as well. It's some of my teacher ratings. I teach on a bunch of different platforms and I get consistently high ratings. In contact with all my students as well when they ask questions. So you can see here some of my ratings. But this program is through my own platform. It just allows me to provide it to you myself through my own platform, so I don't have to rely on these other websites. And you also get a whole bunch of different bonuses as well if you register today. So the first bonus, you will get feedback from me. So tailored feedback 2 months from the time you register. And I think this is important because when you're learning, often you'll paint something and you won't know what you're doing well and what you need to improve on. And this is something that I really valued, especially when I was learning watercolors. Getting some feedback from like professional feedback on on how I can improve. Okay, and I think that is going to save you a lot of time rather than spinning your wheels and practicing, but not spending that time effectively practicing. Okay. You also get access to a bonus, a private group. Okay, so after the 2 months, you can message me there, get help, and I'm also available through email. So, but this group is great as well. We have about, I kind of think about it like about 4 different groups on Facebook, and the bigger ones are just publicly available for anyone to access. The courses also started with 30 in there. I think I had about 10, 15, and I just kept building it over time. So now there's 70 courses in there, and I will continue to potentially add some additional ones in there as well. But pretty much in there, there's every subject that you can think of, from portraiture, landscapes, um, flowers, all that kind of stuff, line and wash. Okay, and like I mentioned, you also get access to all those previous live workshops that I've run. So yeah, let's get to the crux of it. So how much does it cost? So like I mentioned, 74 courses, couple months student support, and you also get included private group access. So normally I price it at $497. Um, I've run promotions every now and then, and I knock a couple hundred off. But for today, Mother's Day special, I thought I'd just put it down to $247. So if you're interested in improving your watercolors and really finding and refining and using a proper process so that you can paint confidently and you can produce consistent results each time and feel like you are working towards something rather than spinning your tires, I think it's a good time to get it. I'm going to pop it up again to its normal price later on, but for today, yeah, if you have heard about this, or if you've been thinking about enrolling in it, it's a really good time to. Um, if you have any questions as well, yeah, just let me know in the comments, and I will get back to you. Jenny's asking, if you get the program tonight but cannot get started for a month out, is that okay? Yeah, yep. You can start at any time. So once you register, you'll get a email, and it just has your username and password, so you can log in whenever afterwards. So that's an issue. What do we got here? Skip through again. So yeah, if you're interested, just type enroll in the chat. I'm also happy to answer your questions as well. And yeah, it's 50% off, which is pretty good. I've never reduced it down to that before, but it might sound like a lot, but you'll find that a lot of people who sell their courses, especially other depends on what kind of courses, but you often get maybe 1 or 2 different programs in there. Usually just one program, they'll sell it for this much, but it will maybe have like 3 or 4 hours of content. I like to include as much as I can. I like to make it as valuable as possible for everyone, because I know for some of you, the subjects in a particular class may not be your cup of tea, and so you can go through and actually select through hundreds of different projects on there, and there's going to be something in there for you. But I do recommend you try out some different subjects that you're not so comfortable with, because for example, portraiture was something that I had avoided for a while, and uh, when I got into it, I realized it was something that I enjoyed. If I had the time to do it, it was something I enjoyed and I was actually good at. So, really important to push your boundaries, and I think this is what I try to do a lot in this program as well. So, yeah, let me know if you're interested. Let me just have a check in the comments as well. Yeah, the link is in the description of the video on YouTube, or you can find it on Facebook in the pinned comment in there as well. That's the link. You type that into your browser too. Okay, in order to enroll. Okay, and yeah, some more little testimonials from some of my students. So on the different platforms that I teach on. Okay, another one. Yeah, there we go. There's another one here. So I'm gonna go through and see if you all have any questions. I'm really happy that you spent the time to attend today. It is Mother's Day, and I've got to catch up with my mum and my grandma later today. We can grab some lunch and hang out. But let me just pop the screen back to where we were before. So there we go. Zoom in a little bit. Okay, it's a simple little scene. Certainly, you can spend a lot more time and get extra detail and stuff like that out of it. But for a painting that took about an hour, you can whip these out as long as you follow my process. You can just continue to whip these out over and over again. So uh, Jenny, Jenny would like to sign up for the course. Cool. Let me just give you the link for it. I'll just reply to your message, Jenny. And oops, there you go. So you can click on that and register through that link. And if you run into any problems, let me know. You can message me on Facebook, and you can also email me too. Oops, let me just double check something. That's fine. Yeah, so let me know how you go, Jenny. Yeah, my email address is darren@watercolormentor.com as well. So you can jump on there and, you can either email me or you can message me on Facebook if you need some help. Let me see if I can maybe run through and show you what's included. Might be able to run through a quick little demo of what's inside the course. Just give me a second, but just having a look. Just having a look if there's more questions, comments. Thank you, Suzanne, and good. RC is saying, morning, this tutorial is very amazing. I love it. Thank you very much. Thank you, RC. And yeah, I'm sure the big thing is just getting that first wash in, getting that transition from the darker, warmer colors, cooler colors up the top to the warmer colors as well. Let me have a look here on YouTube, not YouTube, but on Facebook. We've still got about 40 something people watching along today. Let me have a look where we got. John's asking, have you used white ink? No, it's white gouache. So it's this stuff here, John. It's opaque watercolor paint. And the great thing about this stuff is you can mix it in with any other color. So like I mix it in with yellows and oranges and stuff, and you can basically just get some lighter highlights and put them over the top. Okay, right at the end, especially when you miss out on some highlights. As much as I like cutting around stuff, I don't want to ruin a good wash. Bro Dan says, I enjoyed the process learning here from the Philippines. Fantastic. Thank you for joining, Dan. And Richard saying, love some of the technical advice. And such a great final result. Thank you, Richard. Josephine says, thank you. Helen says, that was the biggest fun I've ever had painting. That's good to hear. Sometimes painting's not so fun when you're just winging it. It does help to follow along to these sessions. Fast, but I did my best and thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks. P.S. I'm a total beginner and happy with the end result. That's awesome, Helen. I'm really happy to hear that. Post your result in our group. We've got a group, facebook.com/groups. Hang on, facebook.com/groups/watercolor mentor. It'll be in the description of the video as well. Okay, okie dokie. Having a look. Keith's here as well. Hey, Keith. Good evening, Darren. Sorry I missed the beginning. That's all good. Can rewind it again. Can rewind again, mate. Keith's also one of my students, and he He's one of my patrons. Actually came over and we hung out in Melbourne. You know how long ago that was? That was Keith, probably like 8 months ago. But yeah, you can rewind it, and yeah, if you need help, just message me and let me know. Okay. But apart from that, let me just double check anything else. Apart from that, I might end things because I'm gonna go catch up. I'm gonna catch up with my family now. Happy Mother's Day for all the mothers out there, and I really hope you got a lot of value out of today's session. Appreciate you spending your time here. I run these every month, and I find them great fun to do. It also gets me doing something in the morning because I tend to get out of bed pretty late, especially on weekends. So, uh, yeah, if you're watching along after, you've got questions about my program or questions about this today's workshop, leave a comment in the below the video, and I will get back to you. But other than that, I will catch you all next time. Take care.